Hey guys, this is Terry with Futures.io. I'm really excited to welcome back Peter Davies for today's webinar looking at the new standalone tools from Jigsaw Trading. During the webinar, if you have questions, you can type them into the questions box and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the event. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do us a favor and give us a thumbs up if you really enjoyed the webinar. Also, please feel free to share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us a lot. You can now follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Futures.io. We are working on some new content for those sites and really appreciate your support. And without further delay, I'll hand it over to Peter.
Okay, thanks Terry, and thanks all for coming. Let me just put the screen share on. 1 second. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the Jigsaw Tools in a standalone environment. So that's a new product we're calling RapidTraderPro. Now this is the first public showing of the tools, and we're going to talk about what the tools do and also explain why we're doing things the way we are. And we're going to discuss the architecture of the product, the unique features, and take a look at where Jigsaw is heading in the future. Now, before I start, what I'd like to do is talk briefly about a different side to me than you usually hear in the webinars. Basically what I did before trading, and I'm doing this because my experience of software trends over the years has had a really big influence on some of the decisions we made about product direction. So when I was 13 back in '83, I was a bit of a nerdy kid. Programming became a hobby, and as I grew older it seemed like an ideal career choice, partly because it just didn't feel like work to me, and also because it kept me in a nice warm office and not exposed to the English weather, which is fairly awful, as you know. Now at 18 I decided to skip university for a year and managed to land a graduate job despite not having a degree, and kind of cut a long story short, I'm still having that year off. And when I first got into working in IT, I actually worked in IT departments at 3 companies, but eventually ended up going to a small software house, which, you know, for a programmer is a lot more fun. Now, I mean, first of all, I didn't have to make the coffee so often. Now, there were just 5 developers, so everybody had to do a bit of everything. So from being out and about at different customer sites, talking to customers about what they needed the software to do, and then coding it, testing it, and finally going to the customers and taking that to them, showing them how to use it. And many of those customers were overseas, mostly Europe and the US, and that kind of gave me a real travel bug, because as you know, a lot of you know, I actually live in Thailand now. Now after a couple of years at a software house, I decided to go contracting, which was a big thing back then. Basically calling yourself self-employed, just working short-term contracts. You could earn at least twice as much as a salaried job, and you could get a lot more experience. Now after a few years of contracting in the UK, decided to go overseas. First lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, then moved to the Netherlands, then Denmark, then Japan, and then Thailand. And that was all just as an IT contractor. And it was good times in IT then. You could literally just pick up the phone, you know, say this is where I want to go, and there'd be a job there. Now the reason I stayed in Thailand was primarily because of what it wasn't. I moved to Thailand from Japan, and Japan is a great place to live, but an absolutely terrible place to work, especially in some of those older, more traditional companies. So for those of you who've seen Jarhead or been to boot camp, it felt pretty much like that. Now, I'm not sure if they were working with me or trying to break me, or a bit of both, but even the smallest decisions were made by committee, so nobody got the blame for anything, nobody got the credit for anything. So if you had an idea and actually told people about that idea, they would dismiss it immediately. Just in case they followed your idea, it went wrong and you got blamed. So you kind of had to make your ideas the group's ideas by drip feeding them in meetings, which would turn a 5-minute meeting in Europe or the US into a 5-hour meeting in Japan. So it's kind of like torture by meetings. So I ended up getting assigned at a Japanese factory in Thailand, and while I was there I decided to not renew my contract. I didn't decide to stay in Thailand. My plan was basically have a little holiday and then go somewhere else. And by now we're basically pretty firmly in the dot-com boom, so you really could just say, okay, I want to go here next and there'll be something for you there. But while I was in Thailand, I was offered a job as a regional technology director for a UK tech firm. So I was based in Thailand, traveling all over Asia and Australia. And my role there was to keep up with trends in IT and explain to customers and prospects alike why our technology should be adopted and how it would help them, keep them ahead of the curve, which in those days was mostly about getting their business onto the internet. So the UK side would come out with a new technology, and then we'd have to kind of figure out, okay, that's great, what are people going to do with it, and then explain to executives how they could apply that technology and why they should buy it. And then once they'd bought it, we'd have to train their teams once they'd adopted that technology, and also do a lot of speaking at conferences, generally just banging the drum and saying how relevant we were and how great our technologies were. Now that was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of money floating around. You guys will remember this. Some of you made money, some of you lost money with this, the dot-com boom. Everybody had internet fever. In fact, some of the projections of where the dot-com bubble would take us were just, even at the time, they were so ludicrous that I'd pick fun of it at some of the seminars I'd speak at. So for example, you get two dot-com companies reporting billion-dollar revenues because they'd basically bought advertising off each other and charged each other $1 billion for it. Now later I opted out of joining a management buyout for that company, instead started up a branch office for a Japanese multinational tech company in Thailand. So once again, same sort of thing, a lot of traveling around, explaining people why they should adopt certain technologies, but also being heavily involved in R&D and running a team actually creating the technologies, or rather keeping up with the latest fashions in IT, because by the time I'd been through all this, I'd actually become pretty cynical about the whole software industry. Not that I didn't like it, but mostly the amount of BS flying around was absolutely off the charts. But anyway, that was my last real job, and it's well known that I actually got into trading because I let financial advisors manage my money, and they did an absolutely useless job. Now, it's ironic that in a way that dot-com bubble that I benefited from before was kind of to blame for the amount of money I lost. So there was so much money being made, everybody wanted to invest. Okay, there were a lot of day traders at the time, everybody wanted to invest, and so there's a huge demand for financial advice. And firms in Asia, especially Thailand, were literally, I didn't know this at the time, they were literally picking backpackers up off the street, washing them, slapping a suit on them, and sending them out as financial experts. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And like many people, I wasn't really interested in the details. I just wanted to grow my money. So like I say, it was somewhat ironic that the tech boom that made me a fair amount of money also lost me a lot of money and then kind of led me to trading. And this is where this all starts to impact the direction of Jigsaw, because the software industry is very much like the fashion industry. And it's also quite a lot like the trading industry. So new things come along, everybody says it's going to change the world forever. Forbes magazine predicts it'll be $1 trillion industry, and after a few years we settle down to reality, and that fashion is either dead or it's just a part of IT in general. And it's no accident that new technologies get oversold. There's consultancy firms making a huge amount of money from pumping these fads and selling consultancy to people that want to adopt them. So I've been in meetings with Gartner Group consultants that were billing us $12,000, $14,000 a day, and we'd have that expert there that basically his job was to validate our R&D strategy and then publish nice things about us if they think it's valid. Now that's a really good game to be in, but to keep making money in that game, you actually need new game-changing concepts coming along at frequent intervals, or basically the well runs dry. So that's why we get all these IT revolutions. So we all know about the dot-com bubble and that madness, but there's been lots of other lesser-known revolutions in IT as well. So when something called XML was the next big thing, it was going to revolutionize the way businesses communicate. And it certainly has helped, but not to the extent predicted, not even close. There was one trade show in Singapore where they announced the technology of the show was an XML database company. And I was kind of intrigued about this because I'm thinking, well, how would that work and what would that do? And I went to their booth and said, this is great, but what would I use it for? And they were kind of sketchy on why it was necessary, but everybody absolutely agreed this was the next multi-billion-dollar company, and of course it no longer exists. It didn't last a couple of years. So that revolution was all about format, not content. But whatever the format, if one computer says A and the other computer says B, they're not going to understand each other. So, you're still going to be looking at an average of 6 months to set up some kind of automated order management system between large companies. And it seems that, when this XML revolution occurred, everybody just kind of lost sight of that simple fact, and now we're going to be able to do it in 2 weeks. So where I come from, having been in the industry since the 80s, I've seen lots of these revelations come and go, many of them the same thing with different names. And one of the current revolutions in the IT world now is the cloud revolution, one that, for now, Jigsaw, we've decided not to jump on board. And it's also a revolution that's not actually particularly new. In fact, cloud-based platforms have been around since 1957 and have gone through various renames and rebrands since then. So back in the day, back in the late 50s, early 60s, it was called a bureau service or time sharing on IBM mainframes. And even in my day in 88, in my first IT job, we would send every day a magnetic tape that was the size of Captain America's shield in a taxi to the next town or the next city. And they would process that overnight on their mainframe, and next day another taxi would bring the tape back. So we were actually effectively connected to the cloud via a taxi. So then during the dot-com boom, about 96 to be precise, we had something called the ASP model, Application Service Provider, which was also the next big thing, even though it had already been a thing. And like many fads in IT, it promised to revolutionize computing. Nobody would buy a server anymore. Nobody would install any software. They would just lease. And this article from 96, it's almost like the articles from the trading industry. It's got it all. Grandiose claims of changing the world, and even a little bit of Norwegian rock star glamour thrown in. So just like .com, XML, looking back, it's now obvious to us why this model didn't turn the industry upside down. But for a while there, everyone was jumping on the bandwagon. Everyone was paying consultants to tell them how to do this. Everybody was investing money in these companies. And now we've basically got version 3 of cloud. And on this version of cloud, on the software as a service side, I've been involved with the development of 3 cloud applications on a consultancy basis, not really developing the applications, but on a consultancy basis. And 2 of those were successful, and 1 of them was a failure. And the failed one failed simply because of the type of application it was. It was just not a good fit for the cloud model, the software as a service model. Now again, we could go into a lengthy discussion of the reasons, but basically there are just simply some applications that work really well on a cloud basis and some that don't. And with trading applications, I'm not yet convinced that the benefits are sufficient for the users that all trading applications should be cloud-based. So when we come to trading, we've got to look at the pros and cons of cloud versus installed product, and we don't really see many people doing that. And we have to look at the pros and cons for both the traders and the vendors. Now on the vendor side, it's fantastic. It's a nice simplification. You don't have to worry about what version of the software customers have. You don't have to worry about installation issues. You literally put the software in one place and everybody uses the same version. It's fantastic in terms of support. Now the main motivation for most traditional software companies to go cloud is usually because it allows you to implement a recurring revenue model, but that's not really a change in the trading industry because that already exists, so we can sort of cancel that one out. Now on the customer side, there are obviously benefits too. You don't have to do installations, you don't have to do upgrades, but the cloud applications aren't yet quite as functional as desktop applications that you install yourself. And obviously there still needs to be something running on your PC, and that something is either browser-based technology or self-installing client software. So just like software you install, there's always going to be some compatibility issues arising, such as browser security issues on certain PCs that prevent the software from running. But the key one really that most people care about is performance. And one of the vendors in the cloud space right now is claiming their cloud solution is 2 times as fast as the desktop version, which is a lofty claim and which is fantastic if it's true. Now when you have a PC installed app, what happens effectively is you've got the market and data comes from the market to your data provider, to your PC. Your PC then processes that, decides how that information should be displayed. So effectively, you've got two hops on the network and the bandwidth is relatively low, so we know we can generally handle the bandwidth of 30, 40 instruments coming down on a regular retail internet connection. Now trades go back through a risk management system which may or may not be the same server as the one giving you the data. If it's CQG, it's probably the same server. If you're getting data from IQ Feed, then definitely your risk management system is an IQ Feed. Now with the cloud model, the data comes from the market, goes to your data provider, to the cloud to be processed, but the data doesn't actually go to your PC. So the market data itself does not get sent to your PC. What gets sent to your PC are instructions for displaying the information. So there is software on the PC side that understands these instructions and it presents the data accordingly. So in terms of market data getting to you, or really information getting to you, the cloud has a few more hops for that information to get to you. So there is no real way that the data can be in front of your eyes 2 times as fast. So the distance between you and the market is still the same, although it's probably a little bit further because you've got the extra hops. But it's basically the speed of light and distance that determines the minimum possible time from something that happens at the market to the time you see it in front of your eyes. Now, of course, this cloud server is most likely going to be located very close to the exchange. So the interaction between the cloud server and the exchange will be faster than the interaction between your PC and the exchange. So when we hear it twice as fast, the cloud's twice as fast, what they're most likely discussion is actually this interaction here between the cloud and the exchange, not really comparing the same thing. So when we look at cloud-based trading applications, we've got a few things and a few questions that will kind of need to be resolved over the next few years. And so first of all, and probably least importantly, which is the lowest in terms of bandwidth? Is it sending the data to your PC to be displayed, or is it sending this user interface information for your PC to render? Which is the lowest in terms of latency, or basically the hop time from exchange to your PC? Is it the old model, more traditional model, or is it the cloud model? And which is best in terms of overall performance? Is it sending data to a cloud server to be processed, then sending UI data to your PC for additional processing, or is it just sending data directly to your PC to be processed and displayed? And then finally, which is the richest in terms of functionality on your desktop? Is it cloud, or is it Windows desktop-based platforms? And right now, the Windows-based platforms do have an edge in terms of the functionality on your PC. So my opinion is that there's going to be pros and cons in both models. There's no doubt going to be a little bit more latency with the cloud model for a discretionary mouse clicking trader. But really, if you worry about another 20 or 30 milliseconds, then just let me remind you that there's prop shops in Singapore that quite happily trade US markets, and so they've got a lot more than an additional 20 or 30 milliseconds latency. It's another 200 milliseconds latency. European traders too, they trade US market, and again the extra latency doesn't seem to be an issue for them. So if you're running an automated system, absolutely having that close to the exchange does make a lot of sense. But I think over the next few years is when we're going to get some real answers to this. So sometimes the reason a technology works or fails will be something that people didn't really consider when they were developing that technology. So I certainly don't know all the answers to this. I really wanted to just really bring the questions to you. But I do know that I can sit on the fence for a while it comes to the cloud. Now, building a standalone platform wasn't something I'd really planned to do from the start, mostly because we had a nice niche product, and a standalone platform is really a lot of work. So it's worth going over the reasons I thought the industry might need yet another trading platform. Now, the number one reason we did this is the demand, or rather the demand for support of Jigsaw on so many different platforms. So we get requests all the time to support Sierra charts or TradeStation or Agena Trader, all the up and coming platforms. There's so many different platforms out there, and people want the functionality that Jigsaw gives them, but they want it on their platform. So we have to make a decision. We can either support dozens of platforms, which is very painful, or we can let people run Jigsaw standalone, and then they can just use whatever charting platform they want. So as new retail platforms come to the market, with a Gina Trader, stuff like that, what we're seeing generally is with these platforms is they all tend to do the same thing. We have the same charts, the same indicators, same order types, same market supported, and there's a lot of features that I'd like to see in a trading platform that don't appear to be areas of concern for most retail platforms, and basically I'm talking about execution features. So the focus really seems to be on charts primarily. There's a lot of focus on backtesting. There's a lot of focus on trying to all compete with each other and doing what everybody else is doing. So now we have our own platform with Jigsaw. It is an execution platform, and we have no plans to make it a charting platform because that's been done 100 times, and I don't really see the need to do it again. So in other words, it's not intended to be a one-size-fits-all platform. It's a focused platform for execution. We're going to focus on order flow and execution features for those that need advanced execution and order flow features. So we'll also be focusing specifically on execution for futures traders, because if you speak to options traders, stocks traders, there's a difference in how they execute, and that's why in the professional world there tend to be different leading platforms for each market type. So we look at the retail platforms that let you do futures, stocks and options, but in the professional world it's a little bit different. The leading option platforms aren't being used to trade stocks. Again, we're not just going to specialize in execution and order flow, it's going to be specifically futures, because that's, after all, the market we know. Now we also have the issue that the platforms we support aren't exactly popular in the prop world. And so we get prop firms calling us quite a lot, asking us when we'll support platform now. The bottom line is that prop firms won't let certain retail platforms into the building, and I'm not going to name names, but you already know, because they're considered unreliable. Now this doesn't mean that the plug-in model of Jigsaw is dead and we won't support existing platforms. In fact, we're actually now supporting the TradeAvate platform, and we do have another platform coming soon. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we do have another platform coming soon. So we're not going to stop supporting the plugins for existing platforms. We'll be focusing on putting new functionality into standalone product, because that's where we have the most flexibility. So the biggest advantage for us is that we have no limitations at all when we have our own platform. We don't have to worry about compatibility with 4 or 5 different platforms. We don't have to worry about the way that platform orders. We don't have to worry about the way that platform does average pricing. So as we implement each feature, the pace at which we can do that is much faster, because we only have to worry about compatibility with our own platform. Now as we did this, obviously one of the things being a new platform, you've got to look at the things, as well as looking at the cool stuff you do, you've got to look at the things that annoy you with existing platforms. And there are a few annoyances with these existing platforms that we've specifically avoided. And I'll just go through a few of those now. So the first one is something called a dialog box, and that's a bit of a nerdy term. But these are the pop-up windows or settings windows, and when you open them, they stop you from clicking anywhere else. Absolutely normal, right? An error message pops up, and until you click OK, you can't click any other window in that application. Now, who actually wants that to happen? Okay, it's not really desirable functionality. I mean, it makes it easy for the application designers, but honestly, I don't care if an error window pops up, or if I'm in a settings screen. If I want to get the hell out of a trade on another window, I want to be able to do that right now. So we have none of that in the Jigsaw platform. And the other one is not being able to utilize the PC's resources and locking up. So, we've all seen this. Your platform dies and you go to Task Manager and it's stuck at 12.5 CPU utilization. And that's because your average i7 processor is split into 8 like little baby processors, and 100% divided by 8 is 12.5%, which is why one of those little baby processors is 100% busy, it shows us 12.5%. And not only that, when this happens, it actually locks up the display for that application, so you can't exit a trade, you can't move a window. And that's because that baby processor that's doing the background work is also the one that's doing the screen handling work. So basically the whole screen gets locked for that application. So from the ground up, we built something that would spread the work across all CPUs, all of your baby processors, and to only ever use that screen handling thread for screen handling. Now the other one is crashing. I mean, seriously, if you're in the middle of a trade and a message pops up, unhandled exception found, or your platform just, boom, it's gone, you've got no log or trace file messages, we've all seen like this, and this might seem like a lofty claim, but once again, if you're going to build a platform from the ground up, you have to know that this is not acceptable, and you have to find a way to avoid it. So again, we've got a no crash architecture, and I may regret saying this in the future, but it does ensure the software will always run, so you can always get out of your trades, because to me that's the most important thing. I always want to be able to get out of my trade at any time. And the fact is, with this data, that this model that we use, you're literally processing millions of data messages a day. So for sure there's going to be some rubbish coming at you. But there's no excuse to fall over in a heap, for your application to fall over in a heap. So in our alpha test so far, with just under 100 users, we have experienced one deadlock, okay, but we haven't experienced a single application crash. And the other thing that gets me is access to markets. So, most platforms come with a predefined set of symbols to trade, and for the rest, it can be quite a painful process to add more symbols. And I know this because people are always asking me how to do it on certain platforms. And then there's some symbols that you can't add at all. So exchange traded spreads, for instance, are missing from most retail trading platforms, but by nature, they are much lower risk instruments. So we decided to handle that on our end so that you don't have to handle anything to do with defining symbols. And we'll look at our approach to that shortly. Now the other thing is workspaces. Users like to put their windows where they want and save that information, and most platforms that's called a workspace. And one of the craziest things to me is, we've got all these traders that have got 8 screens, but you can only have one workspace visible at a time. Okay, so to me, again, that kind of thing doesn't make a lot of sense. And then also just the ability to share stuff. Different platforms have different abilities when it comes to sharing stuff, connections, workspaces, templates, all that kind of thing. So our approach to this was, well, basically, you should just be able to share anything. And so we took a really open approach in terms of being able to share settings with other users or between your PCs. So what we'll do now is give an overview of the features. Now what I'm not going to do is go over the functionality of the existing tools, because we've basically done that before. They're already out there, people know what they are. If you don't know what they are, you can go to our website and have a look. So things like the auction V-star, the depth and sales, the reconstructed tape, summary tape, power meters, they'll all be in the new product, and they'll all work the same way that they work now. It's actually the same code that we're moving across. So what we'll focus on is the new stuff, because there's been a lot of questions about how these tools are being made available in the standalone platform. For example, how can we even run the tools without there being a charting platform beneath it, because everybody's used to first clicking on a chart to open the Jigsaw Tools. Now, as I said before, we're not trying to replicate here what other platforms do. There's really no need for another set of candlestick charts on the market. So our platform is very simple and robust. So when you open the application, this window here is what you're going to see, and from left to right, this is what we have: a connection manager to set up your data feeds and to download instruments, a strategy manager to manage automated exit orders that get triggered when a position is filled, alert window to show your iceberg alerts, block trade alerts, divergence alerts, and large accumulation alerts, session manager to define session start and end times if you want to define your own. Then we have the depth and sales and auction vista charts, the reconstructed tape, and the summary tape. Now, partly for a bit of fun, but also because there's lots of people out there that have issues with color blindness. So they can't see the contrast between certain colors. So some people can't tell the difference between red and green. We've included skinning in the product. So you can choose how the application looks. So if you have a certain color blindness, you can pick a skin with colors you can tell apart. And also, as you can see, if you're an emo, a goth, or a romantic at heart, there's also something there for you too. Now, workspace management is extremely simple. So here we can see 1, 2, 3, test X, treasury spreads. Those are your open workspaces. So one workspace is active at any one time. So this workspace here, spreads, that's in bold, that's your active workspace. So any new window open will belong to that workspace. But you can have as many workspaces visible at any time, okay? And you can use any tool from any visible workspace. Now the checkbox next to the workspace name tells if the workspace is visible or not. So you can have a workspace open but hide it, or you can close, save, copy, whatever a workspace as you need to. Now over on the Tools menu here, we have something called Subscription Manager, which isn't something that exists in many platforms, but is really key with some of the data feeds that we're going to be supported. So some data feeds like Interactive Brokers, Gain Capital, have hard subscription limits. So on Interactive Brokers, for instance, you can only subscribe to 3 market depth feeds at a time. Now we're going to allow you, or we do allow you, to connect and get data from as many feeds as you like. So you can have your 6 screens, 4 feeds connected, domes all over the place, and then you find out you want to open a dome for a specific reason, you're wanting to get into trade, get out of trade, you've got no more subscriptions left, and you don't know why. So what we have here is a subscription viewer that tells you what data feeds you have, and actually allows you to kill off a data feed, and that basically allows you to run another tool with that data feed without having to figure out particularly which depth and sales or which recon tape is using the data and remove it from the workspace. So the bottom line is that if your data feed tells you that you can't have that data, you really need to quickly resolve that so you can actually do what you wanted to do with your trades, and we use a subscription manager for that. Cleaning expired symbols simply removes expired symbols from your symbol database, just means they're not going to appear anymore in the search window. Now the error window is a little bit different from error windows on other platforms. So it does pop up and it does make an annoying noise just like other error windows, but while it's open you can carry on using other windows. So you can, for example, still close a trade while the error window is showing. You can open the error window as part of your workspace and sit it somewhere convenient so you always know where it is. If you close the error window, it'll remember the last place you put it, so the next time you get an error, it'll appear in the same place. So it does its job of telling you about errors without interfering with your job of trading. And then of course we have things like online help, the Jigsaw free chat room, and of course the ubiquitous about box. Now in this version we're supporting IQFeed, Rhythmic and CQG. Now with IQFeed and Rhythmic, existing accounts are basically good to go. You can connect now to live accounts. For CQG, your FCM needs to enable it. And if you want to get connected, we can talk you through that process. We will talk to the FCMs. Right now we're in alpha mode, or alpha release for this product. We're working with AMP as an FCM. They're helping us set up demo accounts, stuff like that. They will enable live accounts, but of course we will work with other brokerages. We have been through the necessary certification programs to ensure we're actually compliant with the feeds we use. So, CQG, IQFeed, Rhythmic, they know about us. And with CQG, we sat down with them, went through a testing process where they, validated the app was doing the right thing. We do have other feeds in progress, although it's really going to be down to the users to decide which feeds come next. Now for futures, you can use any feed for your data and trade any account. So if you want to watch CQG data and trade Rhythmic, up to you. With futures, every provider, they do define instruments slightly differently, but we've done the work for you so that the mapping between the providers of those symbols is automatic. Now for exchange traded spreads, the mapping is not automatic. So if you're going to trade an exchange traded spread, you're going to have to trade and get the data from the same place, and really that's just down to the fact that each provider has got a completely different way of defining spreads, and mapping them just wasn't possible. And if we'd done it, it would have, it would have been a one-year project. But with the spread volume being lower, it's not really an issue which data provider you get the data from. Now when you open a tool, we don't make any decisions. We don't presume you want your data from the first connection. You can have one depth and cells using rhythmic data, another open using CQG data, another open using IQ feed data. So each instance of each tool can use a different combination of data and broker feeds. Now the system comes without any instruments defined. And to download instruments, you just connect to a feed and come here and you click download instruments. You tell it which markets you're interested in, which types of instruments you're interested in, and also how far out you want to go in terms of expiry dates. And it'll then just pull in all of the available symbols from that data vendor and bring them into the product. So you don't have to define instruments yourself. And we don't just bring across the 50 most common instruments, and we bring across multiple expiries. And of course, if you want to bring up a DOM for December, January and February crude all at the same time, there's no problem with that. You can open as many expiries as you want. And as you can see, we do have a limited number of exchanges right now. We will add more on demand. We do have some demand for exchanges in Asia and Australia right now. The other thing, just to bring your attention to one thing, in this image you can actually see three things going on at once. So this is actually one single screenshot that I've pasted onto here, not four different ones. So what we're doing right here is we've got two setting screens open that are downloading instruments for CQG and rhythmic, and at the same time we've got depth and cells running, and that's just basically the nature of this application. It is truly multi-threaded. It's not just a part of it is multi-threaded, the whole application is multi-threaded. So that's what gives us the ability to just run anything on any CPU and not just lock up one of your little baby processors. And again, we don't have any concept of locking you out because you're in a setting screen. Now, exit strategies, obviously a big thing, and it's missing from some of the plugins, basically because really it's only NinjaTrader that gives us the ability from an API perspective to actually select a new strategy. So emergency stops are something that everybody wants, but I'm not sure how many power users there are of exit strategies or ATM strategies, as Ninja call them. So we're starting out initially with something quite simple. So you can define a single bracket at the moment with a stop and target. Now obviously if you scale into a position, you can tell it how you're going to scale into position. You can use stop limit or volume stops, and we'll talk more about volume stops later on. OCOs that we create are server-side, but it is worth noting a couple of things. So for CQG, their OCO policy is to cancel the other order when there's a fill. That means if you cancel one side of an OCO yourself, the other side will not be cancelled by CQG. Now, at that point, when Jigsaw sees that happen, Jigsaw will step in and cancel the other side for you. Now, that's not as bad as it sounds, because you've still got server-side OCOs that will cancel the one order when the other gets filled. Okay. Generally speaking, when you cancel an order manually, you've actually got your platform open. So, you might think, oh my God, they're not always going to cancel my other order. It's really not a big issue with CQG. For Rhythmic, we use their RAPI Plus API, which has server-side OCOs, and that will cancel the other side whether you do a fill or cancel. So at that point, we don't step in. Now, OCOs that have locally managed orders like volume stops will be managed on your PC because the volume stop doesn't exist at the exchange. Now, where strategies go, how complex they become, is really going to depend on what you guys need. So the infrastructure is there in the product for us to make it as complicated as we need to, but we'll do that on demand. We don't want to make anything more complicated than it needs to be if 90% of the users are quite happy with something simple. Now, the most common question from existing Jigsaw users is, if there's no charts, how do we launch the tools? Well, as soon as you click to open a tool, or if you start typing on an existing tool, up pops the symbol search window. So what you can do in here is, first of all, you choose which connection you want to use to feed data to that tool, and this will generally default to the first feed connected, but if you change an instrument, it'll just default to your current feed for that tool. You can select an account from any feed connected, and you can select your instrument, and then of course you can set the session template. Now, the instruments are going to be shown by product code, so a product code like ES, and then the expiry date. So you're going to see them in expiry date order. Now, once the tool is running, you can just call up this window, switch to a different feed or instrument, but accounts can still be selected in the trade window and depth and sales. So if you're in the DOM, you don't have to go back to the search window, just select a different account. So kind of that explains how you open the tools without plugging into a chart. So for those existing users. So you just search for the instrument and the tool opens with that instrument. Now this is the first of many intelligent orders to come in the Jigsaw platform, and it's called a volume stop order. So it's a very, very simple concept, but it's built on an intelligent order architecture that gives us the ability to provide very quickly very smart orders. So in this case here, if price moves up to 57.25 and the offers there are 100 or less, then the stop will fire. So normally stops are triggered based on a single trade occurring at that price, but that makes not much sense because that doesn't mean we're going to go through that price necessarily. So, you know, we've all seen it. There's nothing worse than price hitting your stop and then the market reversing from there and doing exactly what you thought it was going to do anyway. So in this case, we're saying that if we trade here and the offers go to 100 or below, you know, we think that price is actually going to move through that offer and then it's time to get out. So it's just another way of doing stops. It doesn't mean you can't do other types of stops. These orders can be part of an exit strategy. They can be part of an OCO. As far as we're concerned, an order is just an order. Now, it's a bit of a mystery why most retail platforms don't let you see exchange traded spreads, although after looking at the different APIs and the way they define spread instruments on different data providers, I can kind of understand it. But basically, exchange traded spreads are just instruments on the exchange that you probably already have available from a trading perspective, but you just don't have access to them through your platform. Now, they are generally considered lower risk instruments, and that's the reason that many prop traders trade spreads. And also there's a number of prop traders that actually like to watch the spread when they're trading outright positions. It's a bit like using correlated markets. So what we've got here at the top, spreads on rhythmic, we've got a butterfly spread on core at the top left. We've got two separate calendar spreads on crude oil and a calendar spread on corn. These are the rhythmic symbols, so if you're looking for these symbols on CQG, they will actually be different symbols. Now, each of these providers does have a guide on spread instrument trading and on the naming conventions they use, so we will be linking to those in the Jigsaw manuals. Tends to be energies and agricultural products being the more popular calendar spreads to trade. There's also some spread trading on interest rate products, so this is CQG at the bottom. We have the rather uniquely named NOB spread, which actually stands for notes over bonds, and the non-spreads, which is the 10-year notes over the ultra 10-year notes. Now, all the major windows have this little section at the bottom for templates. So again, it's a fairly common concept in the platform world. So you can set up templates or settings for each tool. You can set the default template, but you can't change the factory template. There's always kind of one there. That's always the one you've got as a backup. So, you know, you can define settings to be used across any instance of any tool. So this is just something that every window, or almost every window, will have attached to it. And again, very, very basic concept, very normal concept to have. But one of the things that we do, as we said, one of the things we do allow is you are able to share these templates with friends or between your own PCs. In fact, you can actually just move this entire Jigsaw trading folder from your My Documents to another P to just completely move your setup. So your connection definitions, your workspaces, your session times, exit strategies, they're all stored in individual files you can share. And the only thing you can't share is your licensing file for obvious reasons, or you can try, but it will just switch the product off. So it's a totally open platform in terms of being able to easily move settings from one place to another. One of the bugbears with the existing plugin product is the licensing. So many users will be very happy to hear with the new product we've moved away from third-party licensing system and implemented our own. We've had a few issues with the third-party system over the years, including one which I think was earlier this year, where the provider somehow did something with their server that meant we had to release a completely new version of our product to every single customer. Everybody lost access and we had to work 24/7. Well, it didn't take 7 days. We worked pretty much constantly to get that resolved and actually get everybody in a copy of the software. That's not going to happen anymore. So we've implemented our own licensing system that we have complete control over. And the other thing is, with the current system, if you want to move your software from one PC to another, you have to get in touch with us for us to reset your license, and that is no longer the case. So you can activate, deactivate licenses on one PC, software on another PC, and activate it there. You can do that from both the licensing system, and you'll be able to do that from the Jigsaw member side. As usual, one license will allow you to run the software on 2 PCs. Now, previously we've had a manual as a document, but we've moved more to online manuals now. So the manual is rapidtrader.jigsawtrading.com. It's online there, you can take a look. Manuals are searchable, and will be upgraded to include some videos. We get a lot of requests from people saying, can you put this on a video? And it's great for English-speaking people, but most non-English speakers are more comfortable with reading than listening. So while we will put videos on there, the fact is there's a lot of non-English speakers, got a lot of Russians, Spanish, French, Portuguese, French, Italian, German-speaking customers that actually use Google Translate with the manual. So for every video we put out, we invariably get requests, can I get that in Russia, or can you give me a transcript? And so, when we're going to put videos in the manual, it does make a lot of sense. We're still going to stick to text-based mostly. One of the things we will do is still make sure we keep good structure to the manual, because obviously with some platforms, as they've grown, the manuals have kind of grown out of control again, become quite difficult to navigate. So we are going to keep an eye on that just to make sure that it's easy for us to support the product, that you can actually find what the product does. In this case, just by doing a simple search. Because it's easy for you, but mostly because we can spend less time doing support at that point.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
Your audio is cutting out.
It's cutting out. Okay. Really nothing I can adjust at this end. Is it very bad?
Yeah, I was getting pretty choppy there for a second.
Okay. Well, we're nearly done now, so let's see if we can actually get through.
It's sounding better.
Okay. So now, if you've got any questions, it's probably a good time to type in any questions you have. So as I mentioned earlier, I don't want to waste your time showing you areas of the product that are the same in both the existing version and the new version. We are in alpha release mode now. So for existing users of Jigsaw, you're more than welcome to join the alpha program. It's not limited in any way. We've got just under 100 people testing it right now. Expect that phase will take probably another 4 weeks to complete. This isn't going to be a 3-year process of going through a beta and alpha release. The alpha version is all about testing the new stuff we've got. So we didn't bring across the latest version of the Jigsaw tools into this version. We've actually just put a slightly older version of depth and sales. Once we get through the alpha, we move across the latest version of the tools, and then we're in beta mode. At that point, we'll also have a few more monitoring tools, mostly to monitor accounts, positions, and orders. We do have a product roadmap that would keep us in work for several years, but what we're going to do is we're going to stick to a blend of what the user community asks us for, as well as our own designs and inventions. So that way, we all kind of stay happy. We get to develop the things we want to develop, and you get to develop the things, you get to use the things that you want to use. Generally speaking, though, we're going to prioritize functionality that is related to execution, both in terms of trade confirmation through order flow visibility, but also we're going to focus on execution features that are not currently available in the market in any platform, because we think we can see a need for a lot more sophistication in the way that we enter orders. Now, unfortunately, this is a competitive business, so I can't really tell you the details of those different kinds of orders because somebody will probably implement them before we do. And just to remind you once more, if you are an existing customer, you will be grandfathered in. There will be nothing for you to pay. We haven't fixed the pricing for RapidTrader yet. We haven't really even taken time to think about it. We've just been focused on developing the product. But if you have the existing product, it will be free. You'll have access to the new software. So that's basically the overview done. So if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask. I do apologize if I was breaking up a little. Not sure if the recording will be any better. So Terry, do we have any questions?
Oh yes, we have quite a few. Let's see. Is RapidTrader Standalone faster, less latency than the Jigsaw on Ninja?
Yeah, it's much faster. It's much faster basically because the way we architected the product. But also there's an extra layer. When the data goes to Ninja, Ninja processes it, and then it has to go to RapidTrader. So that kind of layer's been removed.
Okay. What language is the new app written in?
It's all C#.net.
Okay. Is there any plans for the standalone platform for Mac?
Not really. I mean, there are people in the alpha test using it on Mac, but they're using Boot Camp and Parallels. For now, I just don't see the demand for it. But there are people using it, but they're using it under Windows emulators.
Okay. Does the data feed come down through the pipe twice? Once for your platform and once another time for the charting platform?
No, it comes down once. It should come down once. It depends on the feed you're using, but I'm going to have to check. That's something I'm really going to have to check, to be honest. I mean, IQ Feed has got something specific for sharing, but I really would need to check that.
Okay. Will you still support Top-Step Trader's rhythmic data feed on the standalone?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got Top-Step Trader there.
Okay.
We're also, we've got this model where we charge a fee for the live trading interface, and with Top-Step Combine accounts, we waive that. We will be continuing that. So, there'll be no fees to charge a Top-Step Trader Combine account with RapidTrader.
Okay. Are there any plans for multi-brackets with multiple targets?
To be honest, we can do it. We could do it quite easy right now, but we just want to see what people want first. There's absolutely no reason why not. It's just if there's demand for it, we'll do it. Absolutely.
Okay. So he's saying if you want it, email him and let him know.
Absolutely. If I get more than 3 emails, we'll do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I just, one of the things I don't know with Ninja ATM strategies, I just don't know how many power users they have of that. And obviously, the more complicated you make something, the more people you're going to get calling support. So, the simpler we can get away with, the better. But, if the demand's there, we'll just have to make it more complex.
Okay. I know you answered this before, I believe, but I'm going to ask it again. Is it possible to use IQ Feed for the data and trade using interactive brokers?
Yeah, it will be. We've only got CQG, IQ Feed, and Rhythmic right now.
Okay.
We will be doing interactive brokers later,
Okay.
and again, we'll just do the feeds on demand.
Okay. This person says CQG does support volume stops on the server side. Can you support them?
Absolutely. It will be if they do it on the server side and it's the same functionality, we could do that.
Okay. Do the appearance templates for the existing add-on transfer over to the standalone?
No, unfortunately, we had to right now the templates are all kind of into one file. It would be a lot of work for us to do that, so we kind of took the easy way out on that one.
Okay. When will the standalone be released? Is there a time frame?
It's in alpha trial now. We expect that to be 4 weeks. Then we go into beta, probably another 4 weeks. So we'll be looking at maybe December, January. I mean, there are people using it right now. You know, they just joined the alpha and they're using it, and they're not really interested in the alpha test. They're just interested in using the product. But you know, I'd say somewhere probably December time for official release. But you know, people can use it whenever they're ready.
How does one join the alpha program?
Well, if you're an existing customer, you just send me an email and I add you in.
Okay. Will it connect to the new TT Web API?
Okay, so TT have got a whole bunch of APIs. We've got TT Fix implemented, and there's a specific reason for prop shops that we're doing TT Fix. Really, with TT, we are actually talking to TT. They're doing a lot of things right now. It's kind of hard to kind of figure exactly where they're going to settle. But yeah, in the end, we'll probably end up doing it, but we'll probably do TT Fix first for the prop shops.
Okay. This person asks, can you talk about the possible implementation with Sierra Chart in their feed?
Well, we can do any feed. So as long as Sierra Charts have no objection, we can interface their feed. We wouldn't interface with the platform. So because we're basically, you know, we're pretty much done, not quite done, but pretty much done with platform integrations. Okay. But the feed's no problem.
Okay. Can this platform be used with stocks or stock ETF options?
We're going to avoid options mostly because you need something very specific for options trading, and I just think it's too niche an area. We will be developing something specific for stock trading. You can use depth and sell for stocks now, but we feel that we need to deliver something new. I'm not going to say what that is, but basically we've got some design ideas of what we're going to do for stocks. But you could trade stock. We could let you trade stocks for the depths and sales, but we really feel that we need to produce something.
Okay. Is it easy to convert an indicator from Ninja to RapidTraderPro?
There will be no indicators and no charts, so it will be very, very difficult. We're not. So basically, we're saying you keep your charting platform, you use us for execution. That's the deal, basically.
Okay. Will RapidTrader support trading of multiple accounts at the same time and trading of a group of account groups?
Multiple accounts at the same time, yes. We don't do trading groups right now.
Okay. Oh, there's a question back at the beginning. Okay, let's see. How about the new proposed CME data feed changes? Q position directly available in the feed. How and when will this be implemented with Jigsaw? And what are the implications for trading?
Well, we have to rely on the data feeds implementing it first. So, when they've done that, we can do it. Implications for trading should be interesting. I presume that overall, the queue position is one thing, but it's actually visibility of all the orders in the queue that is the most interesting thing. My guess is that basically people will just start breaking up their orders. So when they give, I guess it's going to give us an edge for a brief period of time, but I think if there's any edge to be had in seeing large orders, large individual orders in the queue, that they'll just start breaking them up. So I think in the end it'll I don't think it will actually achieve or give us really any edge anymore. It might give HFTs an edge, but for screen traders I don't think it gives us any edge because I think they'll just hide it basically.
Okay. Is there a data feed that you would recommend over any other one?
No, because I'd get shot for saying so. I have to talk to these people every day, right?
They are all great. They're all no. Okay. Let's see. Would a portable installation ever be possible so I could move one USB drive quickly between two offices?
Move what between two offices? Sorry, one.
It's a portable installation, so you could use one USB drive to install across two offices.
I don't really see why not, to be honest. It really wouldn't matter, but the problem is every time you do it on a different PC, it will ask you to license that PC. But it wouldn't, thinking about it, it wouldn't make any difference where the software was, if it was on a USB drive or on, installed on your PC.
Okay. And there's still no pricing yet for the product?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. It won't be far from what we have now. It won't be far from what we have now.
I suggest you email Pete what you're willing to pay. No.
Yeah, right. There'll be a lot of zeros.
Let's see. Can you explain the spread trading on Rapid a bit better? Audio failed when you were trying to explain it.
Yeah, basically we're supporting initially exchange traded spreads. So they're spread instruments that actually exist on the exchange itself. So, you have a lot of the spread trading is on agricultural and energies calendar spreads. So really they're just instruments like any other instrument. It's just a spread instrument and not an outright instrument. And it's just something that's used more in the prop world, professional world, than the retail world. We tend to be pushed in the retail world more towards outrights. But all we're saying is we're just making those available just like any other instrument.
Okay. They're asking, will the standalone work with NinjaTrader's data feed?
Well, NinjaTrader use CQG.
That's what I thought.
So basically, and I think their FCM is dormant. So basically, if you've got a NinjaTrader account, we just need to have a chat with dormant, and NinjaTrader say, okay, you need to enable the Jigsaw application on the account, and then you'd be good to go.
Okay. There's another question. What about Gain Capital, OEC, or any of their white label platforms?
Well, OEC you can actually connect to just as the feed, so we will eventually connect to the OEC feed. But again, like I say, it's just a matter of which ones people demand the most in terms of which order. So we'll do all the mainstream feeds in the end.
Okay. Are there any plans to be able to do scripting, programming of your own columns or order entries?
Probably not. Probably not. We just want to make it a nice, simple execution platform. It could happen in terms of the smart orders to let you code your own order types, but that's a way off, basically.
Okay. Are there any risk monitoring features planned for the future with this standalone tool?
Not really, no. I mean, mostly this is just client-side execution. You'll find that most part of what CQG and Rhythmic do is risk management systems. So if your broker's giving you Rhythmic, that means your broker's also using Rhythmic to manage risk. So it's usually a different layer in the architecture that handles risk management. We don't have any features planned right now.
Okay. Let's see. How are customers expected to handle multiple connections to CQG when CQG will give you data only one connection?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing because right now in the industry, the company that is the most compliant or the strictest on compliance with CME rules in terms of data distribution is Rhythmic, and Rhythmic allow you to connect to multiple applications from a single PC. Now CQG don't, and they charge you $10 a month for an extra logon, but the CME doesn't require that. So there's going to be there is a little bit of arm twisting going on to try and convince CQG that actually, you don't need to limit to one logon from one PC. So yeah, right now you will need another logon for CQG. How long that lasts, I don't know, because obviously it's in our interest to kind of work with CQG. There's other brokerages that are also telling CQG that we don't need to do this, but it's just a matter of convincing them.
Okay. He says the $10 extra logon does not have market data on it for CQG.
Yeah, so absolutely. So yeah, there can be a fee for the market data. So absolutely agree. It's definitely something that we need to kind of get them to look at.
Okay. There was a question. Where did it go? Is there an option to save the bid-ask volume data for later analysis in the GOMI market profile tools?
Well, we're not going to have market profile tools. We will have the auction vista, and the auction vista does save data so that you can look at it later.
Okay, the same person on the CME responded and said, but the CME rules do not allow you to have many market data subscriptions.
The thing about the CME rules is that each data provider interprets them slightly differently. So with Rhythmic are the strictest in terms of compliance with CME regulations, and they allow multiple connections from a single PC. So I would say if you're looking at what the CME rules are, you should look at what Rhythmic do, because they're the ones who follow them the strictest. So I believe that actually the CME do allow you to have more than one connection on a single PC.
Okay, he says it's only 2 for non-professionals. I have no idea. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it is, because Rhythmic actually allowed 2. Rhythmic allowed 2. It's tough to do more than 2 on Rhythmic, but like say CQG allow 1, and there's not really a logical reason for that.
Okay, I know you answered it again, but for people to hear it again, is this a continuation of the existing product, or do existing Jigsaw customers need to pay again once this is released?
I wish. Yeah, I wish. No, I wish no. No, we'll grandfather you in, and that you might think, well, that's generous, but actually it's just a matter of support. I mean, it's the way we work anyway, but it's a lot easier for us to support people on the new product. So we want as many people to move across as possible. The way we do that is by letting you get there for free. Okay.
The question on the GOMI was more about just being able to export the data for the bid, ask, and volume, and then do their analysis somewhere else.
Yeah, well, the Vista does it. Okay. But I mean, again, it's something you can do on any platform. You can do it on any platform right now anyway. So it wouldn't be an area we'd focus on, enhancing particularly.
Okay. Okay, yes. Again, it's the same. I know you've answered this again, but there's multiple questions asking about operating on one data feed and then executing the orders on a different data feed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no problem. Whenever you open a tool, you tell it which data feed you're using, and you tell it which. So if just bring this up here. So you can see here, this is my connection, and these are my accounts. So I can just, yes. Okay, and then I'm actually using CQG data, although I think the market's closed, with a test account. Okay, so you can just select anything with anything else. No problem at all.
Okay. All right, I think that is it. Thank you for the presentation. I'm really excited by this, seeing Jigsaw stand by itself without a different platform. If you have any other questions, you can email them to Peter via his email there on the screen or via the website. And
thank you, Terry, and thanks, Terry, and thank you all for attending and listening.
Yep. There's quite a few people comments saying thank you and appreciating your the webinar today. So
thank you.
Yep.